You were born into a world that already had rules. Rules about money, rules about power, rules about who gets to sit at the table. But no one told you. Those rules weren't made for you. You watched your parents work 2 jobs to pay rent for an apartment that smelled like yesterday's problems. And you made a decision, quietly, in the dark, that you would never live like this. You started studying, not school subjects. You studied people. You studied why some men commanded rooms while others begged for attention. You studied power like it was a language only few spoke fluently. The first lesson you learned: most people want to be liked. The powerful want to be respected. These are not the same thing. In fact, they are often opposites. You made your first dollar, not by working hard, but by solving a problem no one else cared enough to solve. That's the difference. Workers trade time for money. Builders trade solutions for wealth. Then, something happened that changed everything. Someone you trusted stole from you. Your first business partner, your first betrayal. And the pain felt like the floor disappearing beneath your feet. But betrayal is the greatest teacher in the world of power. It teaches you who people really are when their mask slips. And from that day, you stopped seeing people as friends or enemies. You started seeing them as variables. You rebuilt faster this time. Because the second time you build something, you build it with walls. You build it knowing that the greatest vulnerability of any empire is trust given too easily. By 25, you had your first million. It didn't feel how you expected. The movies lied. There was no parade, no applause, just silence, and the quiet realization that money doesn't solve problems. It just upgrades them. Here's what no one tells you about wealth. The richer you become, the more people around you stop being real. They perform for you. They manage your perception of them. Every conversation becomes a negotiation you're not aware you're having. This is a documented psychological phenomenon called sycophancy. The brain of someone who wants something from you literally works against their ability to be honest with you. They can't help it. It's survival instinct. So you developed a tool. You called it the silence test. When someone was being fake, you simply went quiet. Most people panic in silence. The genuine ones stay comfortable. The performers begin to crack within 30 seconds. By 30, you had your first billion. The zeros felt abstract. What felt real was the infrastructure of power you had quietly built. Connections to senators, debts owed by competitors, leverage placed in 50 different industries like hidden insurance policies. But here's the dark truth about reaching the first billion. You look around for someone to celebrate with, and the room is full of people. And you have never felt more completely alone in your life. And then the attack started. When you have nothing, no one cares. But the moment real power accumulates around a person, the world sends its wolves. Competitors, governments, old friends turned enemies. The higher you climb, the more targets appear on your back. This is where most people fail. They let the attacks shake their identity. They start making defensive decisions instead of expansive ones. You did the opposite. You let every attack make you sharper. You fed on opposition like a fire feeds on wind. At this level of wealth, you discover the first great lie of society. The world tells poor people that rich people are evil, and it tells rich people that poor people are lazy. Both are control mechanisms. Both keep people angry at each other instead of looking up at the real structure. Real power is not in money. Money is just the ticket to get into the room where the real decisions are made. And most wealthy people never even find that room. They think they've arrived. They haven't even started. You saw things in that room that you cannot unsee. You understood why certain leaders always survived scandal, why certain companies always won contracts, why the rules of society seem to bend around specific families like light bends around a star. And that's when you face the real test, not the test of whether you could make money, but the test of who you were willing to become to keep it. Because at the highest levels, they always ask you to pay a price that isn't financial. This is the psychological crucible that separates the truly powerful from the merely wealthy. It's not about money anymore. It's about identity, about knowing with absolute clarity what you will and will not do, because in that room, they will test every boundary. The ones who survive it are the ones who developed what psychologists call a stable identity core. A deep knowing of their values is so solid that no amount of money or pressure or peer influence can dissolve it. That's not weakness. That's the most dangerous kind of strength. You reached a trillion, not because you were the smartest or the most ruthless, but because you survived longer than everyone else without losing yourself. Endurance is underrated. In the long game of power, the last one standing writes history. But here's what I want you to understand. The trillionaire doesn't sleep soundly. He doesn't, because real power comes with the weight of the decisions that bought it. And some nights, the price feels heavier than the prize. So, before you chase a trillion, chase clarity, because the most powerful thing you can ever own is a version of yourself that power cannot corrupt. Dark psychology principle. Never tell people how much you have. The imagination of others will always value you higher than the truth. Mystery is the most expensive currency in the world. Real trillionaires don't look rich. Real power doesn't announce itself. The loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one in it. The rule of leverage: never do $1 of work for $1 of return. Find the thing where one decision controls 10 outcomes. That's where generational wealth begins. The biggest trap of wealth is that it makes you forget what drove you. The fire that built the empire goes cold inside a luxury prison. Guard the fire, always. They will tell you that you got lucky, that you had advantages. Let them, because the truly powerful never explain themselves and never justify their results. They just keep building.